Hey girl, hey. I'm waiting for somebody to waiting for someone to join and then I can add them. Let me get my notes.
Your notes.
Not notes, just my points that I want to make sure I don't forget.
Oh nah, you good. I got a little ink pen and a little something to write on as well. So in the event you say something I want to comment on, I'll just like jot it down real quick so I won't forget it.
All right, let me go in. Where's light? Oh, no, you need to get your cover. Alrighty. So let me see if I can. All right, so I'm gonna try to read the original post and we'll go from there. Let's
Trying to
see.
set my phone up in a way where I can charge it and it's set up like it's supposed to. Right.
You good? Eat your food, huh? Okay, let's see. All right. So the original post is guys are mean AF. When they're going through stuff, you'll be thinking it's another girl, and it's really them being frustrated with life. And then her second tweet was, and they won't tell you what's going on either, no matter how understanding you are because of pride. It's really a wrap after that. Might let it go. Might gotta let it go. It won't get better till it gets better for them. And then I said, since I'm always coming for the fellas,
Right. I hadn't noticed until today.
and I don't even think I'm coming for them. I just address things,
Right.
really. So, I said basically, y'all have to do better with determining non-negotiables. Like, for instance, for a lot of people, cheating is a non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
So they make that clear up front, and they let them know, hey, if you do this, I'm out regardless, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I said for men, because women can be emotionally manipulative, to say, hey, I want this in a relationship or open communication. I want the ability to be vulnerable with my partner. And if you use anything against me or try to emotionally manipulate me, I'm out.
Right.
And what did you say? Well, I'll let you go from there.
I said a lot.
I'll
I
let you go from there.
definitely said a lot. Um, so from speaking from a man's perspective, I've been that all my life. I never wanted to be anything else but a man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, from my Veda of experience, as far as just moving through society, moving through life, moving through the dating aspects and realms of that nature, it
Mm-hmm.
is different. It's vastly different, to the extent to where um, it's socially more acceptable and more um, accessible to ask the woman how she feels on a daily basis. Like that's a pretty common thing that happens on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Um, but if you ever stop to think for a moment, how many times have you asked your guy friends or associates, acquaintances, like on a typical level, a typical day, how are you feeling? What's on your mind? Um, from my perspective, I haven't received that in times past.
Mhm.
The ability for somebody to really just slow me down and slow everything down and just ask, how are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? What's on your plate? What are you handling? What you dealing with? How can I help? Those
Right.
influential questions that could help someone unpack whatever may be going on with them. More times than not, asking those questions to a man is severely overlooked. Um,
Mm.
More times than not, a lot of men aren't even asked those questions at all.
Mm.
Um, so let me make this clear. I do agree with your post, with what you said on
Mhm.
how stating your sentiments should be clear, your intentions should be clear right out of the gate. I'm a big proponent of doing that, mainly
Mhm.
because number one, I'm terrible at reading between the lines. And number
Right.
two, I don't ever want you to have to guess, think, wonder, hypothesize, assume, or anything about where I stand on nothing at all.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you 100% of the time. I have nothing to
Right.
lose being completely transparent with anyone. So um,
Mhm.
I do agree with what you're saying, and it should be like that, 1,000%. But what I was simply stating is that the reality is that it's not. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? As you know, as a man and witnessing these things, talking to some of my homeboys, talking to my friends, things of that nature, it just doesn't happen. Um, and in the scope of sharing this life journey with a partner or a significant other, you feel like you should be able to express that those aspects, those sentiments with that person. Um,
Mhm.
but in some weird way or another, even the conversation about it is rarely ever brought up. So you do have this dynamic where um, it could either stem from childhood teachings of adults ascending upon the little boys. Hey, get up, dust yourself off, keep going. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And having that continuously perpetuating him, hearing that all his life, that may have a sentiment to do with it. That may have an aspect to do with it. You know what I mean? But the loudness of that stereotype that is over ramped more in society today than being told those same stereotypes as a kid is severely um, uh, highlighted now more than ever. I constantly see posts left and right about women's perspective on what a man should do, and I
Mhm.
think we made a post about that the other day where that just can't happen. Or no, someone else made a post about that that I commented on and said that just can't happen. Um, so I understand, I think, a level of care as it relates to um, a woman's perspective on how they're supposed to handle the situation, or how they're supposed to encourage a man to handle the situation. But more times than not, the reality is just it just doesn't happen like that. Mainly because I think that most men feel like nobody will actually care, and that's a hard thing to accept. But you can poll any five random men and just ask them, do they think somebody actually cares how they feel, and their answer will probably be no. It is something that definitely has to be fixed, but um, the solution is, where do you
Good.
start? How can you start? So, and I'll just leave it right there for now.
Okay. So you brought up a lot of good points, especially how you said it started, or most of it probably stems from childhood. And I agree that society does push that narrative onto men, like, oh, you can't express your emotions, or, that's not manly, etc. So I get that. But at the same time, it's just like, Like we can't control what we went through as kids. Like we had no control over that. But once you get older and you're aware of things and you know now, okay, that's not true. How can I fix this? So with you, for instance, you said you're pretty good with expressing yourself.
Mhm.
But to a certain extent, because you don't really express yourself because you feel like people don't genuinely care or women don't genuinely care when you do express your feelings. So I guess my question would be, when you have expressed yourself to your partners in the past, what has been the outcome of that?
All right. So the definition of what can be considered a fact is something that can be continuously tested, and the outcome is the exact same no matter how many times you test it, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how many times you do the exact same equation. If it comes out to that specific answer, it is now then a fact. With that being said, the same pattern of men being able to at least feel like they're able to express themselves to someone, and their attitude doesn't change to what he's told, their perspective doesn't change, their compassion doesn't change, their ability to actively listen doesn't change, then it is a fact that that person clearly exhibits the realm of not being considerate or showing a level of care for what this man has to say. And if that element is copied and pasted to the people in his circle that he thinks or thought cared about him or uh, um, was close to him, then
Mm-hmm.
he is surrounded by people who could care less. Now, for me, regardless if somebody care about what I have to say, I'm still gonna speak my piece. I was just bred to speak my piece regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And if you show me how you move, then I can then move accordingly. Because I'm a reactive type of thinker, a logical type of thinker in some instances, most instances, um, what you give me, I'll either reciprocate it or move for the benefit of self. Reason for that is because self-preservation is the first uh, uh, um, primitive element that everyone has. That's we're gonna look out for
Right.
self first, right out the gate. We're gonna abandon everything that could ever possibly matter to us if we feel like um, our self sanctity and security is being jeopardized by something, someone, person, place, animal. It doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I'm not just the type of individual that's just out here doing stuff just to do stuff. I do think that I like to actively listen because
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, any question that I could potentially have is answered or could be answered. Because I'm inquisitive by nature, my platform is to ask questions first. Like I'll ask you a bunch of questions first before I speak from what I thought, what I could ascertain, anything like that. Like my
Mm-hmm.
first go-to is to ask questions because maybe you didn't mean what you said the way that you meant it, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, just taking that small break to say, "Hey, what you mean by that?" could change the world of difference. It can make the world of difference.
Right.
That's a personal testimony for me as well, because I used to be the type of individual who just took what you said at face value. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but upon maturing, I understood that people are they communicate vastly different from the type of upbringing that I had as far as communication goes.
Mm-hmm.
So times past, when expressing, hey, this is what I think. Hey, let me holler at you about this. X, Y, and Z. Um, there were levels of, I guess, temporary care. But
Mm-hmm.
those individuals, I feel like, would only care until it didn't matter anymore.
Until it didn't benefit them.
Right. Exactly. So, um, and then that's when I would see reoccurring patterns of like, did you at least consider what I said? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a very direct person. I speak
Yeah.
to you exact, like no sugarcoat, no nothing. I know how to communicate in a way that isn't disrespectful, of course. but you're going to understand exactly how I feel about something because, and like I said, it's mainly because of the experiences that I've been through, and just forming better ways to evolve, mature, and um, effectively communicate in the best way that I can. So, um, yeah, those experiences I've had after expressing, what I feel or anything like that, it's only been like a temporary perspective of care, not necessarily something that they could apply action to. So,
Okay. So what you're saying is basically the compassion was only temporary.
right.
Okay. I hear that. But you said something else,
Hmm.
which I actually wrote down as one of my points.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of people, like before you are aware of yourself and like your triggers and your traumas and all of that, a lot of us are listening with like emotional ears. And I think I reshared this onto my page a couple days ago. So when you hear something, you're listening from a place of defense, like you're listening to react or respond
Hmm.
versus, like you said, actively listening.
Hmm.
So I think for women, when we're listening to our partners, if we're not aware of our triggers or we're not going through any type of healing process when we're listening to someone, and it doesn't even have to be our partners, it could be anybody, friends, relatives. When
Right.
we're listening, you know when we hear something that triggers us, like that's it. And I think that can
Hmm.
kind of derail the conversation, and now y'all are arguing more so about how that person responded versus you just needing to get something off your chest.
Right. Right.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. And if you're not aware of what triggers you, then you can just be like a walking time bomb. You just triggered anything you say, and it could have nothing to do with that person, but they're taking it personally because they're not aware of their self. They're not aware of this. When I heard that, it made me feel like this, even though it had nothing to do with me, to do
Hmm.
with you. You never directed this directly to me, but that's what I heard. So I feel like for me, what helps is, somebody says something and I find it offensive. I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is XYZ. And they're like, no, I'm meaning this. Because like you said before, you take a lot of things you were at a point where you took things at face value. So if someone tried to come and correct that, like would you you probably didn't really leave space for that. You just took what they said for what it was and be like, nope, that's what you said, so that's what it is.
Hmm.
Is that what you feel like you did during that time?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And you said two key points that I wanted to touch on as well. Um, Cognitive dissonance is running rampant in society today, especially among
Absolutely.
black men and black women. Like I've never seen it on this level to such toxicity before ever.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, it's like that element of exercise and cognitive dissonance plays a role in um, it being hard to tell someone something. You know what I'm saying? It being hard to let you know, hey, um, more so than that, how does one know that something is a trigger for them if they've been conditioned to respond this particular way their whole life, and they just think that, hey, this is just who I am, accept me, flaws and all, good, bad, and the ugly. You know what I'm saying? And then
That's
this
tough.
is where the defensive aspect come in. That the defensive aspect comes in when someone who either they haven't even known that long, or they're dating and they've been in a relationship a year or two or so like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing takes precedence over telling someone uh, something about themselves that they personally don't think that is true.
Mm-hmm.
So the defense mechanism comes in the aspects of, well, who are you to tell me that this is something about me that I didn't realize about myself, because I've been living my whole life like this and it's been fine to everybody else. And that's where the impasse comes at because that person is extremely hard of hearing when someone is just standing outside of the picture frame, letting you know um, that this is something that is not right. I know you've been living your life like this,
Mm-hmm.
but you ask the other people around you how it made them feel. You know what I'm saying? So it's
True.
those that element is of trigger. It's that's a very sensitive yet very tricky thing to try to understand at the same time, and only with self-reflection can you really succumb to a critical evaluation of yourself to the degree of maybe I could have handled that a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning stages of you recognizing what could potentially trigger you. Interpretations, I feel like interpretations versus internalizations are two synonymous things, but they are different at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example, like what you said when in communication, if you say something and that person receives it in a negative connotation and they go, oh, all you heard was this, you took it negatively, you
Right.
decided to interpret it negatively.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if that's a thought, then I could say we in a heated discussion, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and we're going back and forth, and I tell you, well, you can say what you want, I'm done with this conversation.
I
Now,
hate
are you
that.
going to internalize that in a way with care, or are you going to feel face value what I said to you? You see what I'm saying? So it's like
Right.
there is a level of discretion, but at the same time, people say exactly what they mean. If they didn't, it wouldn't be in their heart to say it from the jump. And these ain't little children we're talking about. These are supposedly rationally thinking adults who can have the ability or does have the ability to monitor how they talk to people. And that's
Yeah.
probably one of the reasons why I have like a I wouldn't say zero, but extremely low tolerance for people coming up with the cop out to get away with how they talk to you. You know,
Mm.
so because if you don't address it, they're going to continuously think that it's okay. So that that thinking was a lot more aggressive back then when trying to internalize and interpret what someone said to me, versus now where like I'm looking at a lot of things from an open perspective. For me, I typically don't even get in Facebook debates with nobody, mainly because people have their own definitions, opinions, interpretations about what they believe to be true. And who am I to tell them that they're wrong? I'll never tell someone that they're wrong over their opinion. I would just want to engage with them in the conversation. Um, but if it's sound and it's legit, I'm probably going to agree with it more times than not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
More times than not, I'm probably going to agree with it. I'm not going to instantly go like combative with it or anything like that. The only aspects of my combativeness that you will see is if in both situations, a man trying to tell a woman how to be a woman and a
Mm-hmm.
woman trying to tell a man how to be a man. Like
Right.
you each other will never know what that's like ever in life.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why that there's a distinction between the two. So that's that's those are only like the generalizations is what I aim to eliminate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I aim to push forward more accountability for both rather than pointing the finger and putting the whole blame of the state of men in society on men and vice versa for women. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, interpretations and internalizations are different, and it takes a lot to be able to self reflect and um, recognize what your triggers are. So,
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned something that was a reality for a lot of people. How do you bring something to someone
right,
that you consider not to be so healthy when they've grown up being that way their entire life and no one's really told them, hey,
right,
this isn't cool because they probably think it's okay.
mm-hmm,
So my response to that would be to maybe suggest therapy because a
okay,
lot of things you might not figure you're not gonna heal in the same environment you got hurt in. So they can't
Right.
look to go to their family and be like, oh, you know, I want to change this about myself. They're gonna have to put themselves around people who aren't like that to see a different perspective.
Mm,
One or two, they're gonna have to go to therapy. But a lot of people, there's still this stigma. We're getting better with
yeah,
mental health and
yeah.
the stigma that comes with therapy, but there's still that negative stigma that only crazy people go to therapy. But
Mm-hmm,
it's just like, these people have studied people and
mm-hmm,
analyzed how our brains work, how socially we work, and all of that. And they can help you. And not even like fix you, but just give you additional tools to be able to help yourself.
right, right.
And I found that to be helpful because I've gone through therapy more
Mm,
than one time. And I feel like, one, you get somebody who is a neutral party who doesn't know you and they're able to be on the outside looking in. Because I feel like in a relationship, you both as open minded and as, you know, um, yeah, basically as open minded as you think you are or try to be, you still
mm,
have some sort of bias because you know that person.
right, right,
So
right.
you might see it through a certain lens. If anytime you go to your girl and she's always shutting you down or she's not really actively listening to you when you're talking to her, you're probably gonna view her from a certain lens.
Mm-hmm,
And it's probably gonna take a while for you not to view her that way.
right.
But a therapist can see it from the outside and see kind of the bigger picture. Because sometimes you're arguing about something that's so minute,
Mm-hmm,
and really, what you're arguing about is over here. This is the issue.
mm-hmm.
So I think that just takes a willingness. I don't know, like,
Bingo.
because you can't want help for somebody that don't want it for themselves.
Exactly.
So
That willingness, even not even from well, even for the individual,
mhm.
as well as the person that they, claim to like or love or be in a relationship, that willingness oftentimes is overlooked as well. So it's like we and even when growing to learn someone, like we feel like we know how we're supposed to conduct ourselves, but we don't. We really
Right.
don't. We are responding based off of what that person gives to us, either effort level or energy level or conversation or so on and so forth. It's a continuous learning process. I personally don't think that you can ever fully know someone, mainly
Yeah.
because your mind changes on a daily basis when it comes to
Hmm.
decision making. I can't expect for you to remain the exact specific same person that I met you as 2 years from now, 10 years from now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think you can be familiar with the mannerisms of that person. Their likes and dislikes, some basic things to help you, embody the essence of that person. But um, I don't think that you can ever fully get to know someone. So with that being said, it is a continuous trial and error um, journey with that person. But um, at the same time, I'll tell you this. Um, for me, and it's probably because, okay, a moment of transparency. Um, I was gonna go somewhere with that, but I got to put this precursor forward.
Okay.
So I have decided to take responsibility for um, disappointing myself.
Mm.
And and to that end, it's my own fault that I'm trying to see myself in a way in them. Like I like saying the
Mm.
quotes of, if that was me, I would have X, Y, and Z. If that was me, then why isn't it just that simple? Because I would have, X, Y, and Z. So
Mm-hmm.
I take full and complete responsibility for every time that I didn't slow down enough to just understand where they was coming from, their way of trying to communicate and reach me, so on and so forth. Some things are just ABC. You just
Mm-hmm.
common knowledge. But in other more intricate regards to things, I take full responsibility of that because they don't know what's up here. Only I know what's up here. You know what I'm saying? They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get to know what's up here, but only I know what's up here. Um, so with that being said, um, there's really only one thing that will make me, tell you about yourself. There may be more, but one instant thing that I would say, one instant thing that would make me, check you a little bit or a lot of it depends, is if we're talking and we're having a conversation and we're trying to get to the bottom of something, and I'll sit here and let you express what your thoughts is
Mm-hmm.
fully, complete. I won't interrupt you at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you say something that I wanna touch on, I'll try to keep a mental note of what's being said. Sometimes if it's an intricate conversation, then I'll get a pen or something and I'll touch on what you said. But I will let you have the floor completely uninterrupted. I won't cut you off. I won't tell you that you're wrong. I won't get in my feelings and be like, well, I won't do none of that, because when I begin to speak, I anticipate you give me the same respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the quickest thing that will have me check you is when I begin to talk and you're trying to talk your point over what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Then I know instantly you officially tuned out anything that I could have said, went to the defensive ear, and abandoned active listening right out of the gate. It's difficult. It is difficult to tell someone what their trigger is when, as a man, when you try to express yourself to them, they think it's an attack.
Mm-hmm.
They think you are attacking them. But here's the thing: statistically speaking, and I put it on the post, only
Mm-hmm.
11% of men actually go to therapy to seek help, and men make up about 50% of the world's population.
Yeah.
So out of that 11%, roughly 9% or less actually know how to articulate how they feel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So in whatever capacity, as long as he ain't yelling, flipping over desks, all that crazy stuff, in whatever capacity that he's trying to um, release what he's feeling psychologically and emotionally, it helps to not think that he's bashing you or attacking you, because
Mm-hmm.
in that articulation lies the foundation of what's wrong with him if
Mm-hmm.
you actively listen.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I was trying to allude to point wise, is that there aren't a lot of people who either don't know how to actively listen
Mm-hmm.
or want to exercise the willpower to do so.
Yeah.
And then you can take your advice and move around, move. You know what I'm saying? Keep pushing.
Mm-hmm.
But that glue called care will have you loyal to people and situations that you should have been walked away from.
Facts.
So it's a juggling that. It's catch 22 all over again.
So going back to the actively listening, yes, it's a problem. I feel like more people, I think this is just a general thing. People listen to respond. They're listening for key points so they can like refute what you just said.
Right.
No, well, no, I didn't. And something that I have picked up or read recently that I'm going to work on implementing is when you're talking to someone, try to refrain from using words like "you always do this" or "you never do that," because that will trigger someone when you're, and then it's
Right.
hard for them to hear you after that Because,
Yeah.
you saying, oh, you never do this. So, like, oh, I never do that. Or you always do this. Oh, so I always do that. So it kind of like it's triggering. So
Oh man.
removing those words can help the conversation go a little bit smoother, and to use I and me instead of you in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So when you're talking, like, I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, instead of being like, you do this, you do that, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
When this happens, I feel like this. When this takes place, it makes me feel this way. It kind of helps to word what you're saying a little bit better, to be more receptive. Because I know for me, that's something I had to work on. Somebody's like, you always, oh, so I always do that. Say
Mm-hmm.
less. Oh, so you never, so I never do that. Okay, so less. So it kind of helps to change your wording too a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, Now you mentioned something on a post where you said that women by nature are set up to, um, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I can clarify. I
Okay.
can clarify. So, just to touch on exactly what you just said, verbiage and language matters. It really does. It really does. And that could bring out the negative connotation in a split second in someone's
Mm-hmm.
attitude, their receptiveness, how they respond, their energy level, whether you get a call back, whether you get a text back the next day. Like, it's a constant chain reaction. And I've been in that situation once where, I was told, "Oh, you never do this. How come we don't ever X, Y, and Z? You always. I don't know what you're talking about, but you've always." And, and to me, I went to school for marketing and communication, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
became so proficient at it that I tutored other college students on how to be effective
Mm-hmm.
communicators, as well as their papers and all of that. The English language is, I'm very proficient at it. I'm very proficient at writing. I'm very proficient at how I communicate, public speaking. So these are things that I know without a doubt. Um, so when you say you never, to me, and just using the English dictionary, the English definition of things, when you say you never, that means zero ability.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, hasn't happened. Without. And if I begin to trace through my memory bank of what I have done, it appears that you've erased everything that I've done with that one statement. And
You automatically feel unappreciated.
automatically, and I'm not a person to throw up nothing in nobody's face ever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the most childish thing that you could do. Children still do that to this day, and
Mm-hmm.
adults do it too. But I try to pride myself on not doing that. But you do have to allow these people who have amnesia know what's going on, and there is a difference. So I would never go around and say, "Oh, you've never done this. How come we don't never do this? You don't never." I mean, that's, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, because my memories of the things that we do together are going to be fond to me. I'm not going to superimpose what you've never experienced to me over your whole experience with me. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's very finite thinking at best. Now, to get to the point of what I made on your post. So, um, for me, sometimes I just sit and think about how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said before, because I'm inquisitive by nature, like, it is fascinating to discover how things, people, and just stuff in general work. Um, so the statement that I made, to me, was a lot more powerful than what people interpreted it to be.
I'm waiting for the explanation because I was like,
And
I don't agree with that.
right. So this is the stance that I come from. Since the creation of Adam and Eve, since the beginning of time, women were created to be the rib, the protector of the heart of Adam. That's the strongest part. That's the closest part to your heart is your rib. She was she was built to withstand impact for that heart if it's in a healthy body. She was created to protect the heart from any and all hurt, harm, and danger that may try to penetrate the most vital, important, critical aspect of the body, the heart. She was made to be fractured a little bit, but she can heal stronger than ever. She was made to, if she gets broken and she is implemented into the right body, if the body heals like it's supposed to, she can heal stronger than she was before. With that being said, it's fascinating to understand that women go through a lot on a daily basis, just on a psychological level, much less a emotional level and a day-to-day routine and so on and so forth, but yet she still overcomes her daily adversities. And many of them make it look like it's a walk in the park. Right?
Hmm.
So with that being said, to withstand and withhold this limitless, bountiful amount of uh, I guess I would say a melting pot of emotions that she may or may feel on a daily basis. For the person that she love and care about, she'll still have enough room for what he has to say.
Yeah.
And if she feels that she can pour into him positively, that's what she's going to do. So it's a level of cultivation that happens between that man and that woman.
Hmm.
If she's with the right man, he's automatically going to be pushed to do better, to be better, to speak,
Hmm.
to articulate better, to express how he feels better, so on and so
Hmm.
forth. The actual power that a woman has over a man is incredible when you wrap your mind around it. Wars
Hmm.
have been started. Ain't no war been started over niggas. None. Not a one. Not in the history of none. You see what I'm saying? So that's a very, very powerful element that she has, that she possesses. I never stated that premise to be interpreted like I'm always supposed to pour into you how I'm feeling, and you can't do the same back, or you can't,
Okay.
or you can't respond, or all you need to do is just carry around this baggage that I have to give. Because in reality, more times than not, the nigga probably not even gonna open up. He's probably not going to be willing to, because of his previous experiences of not being able to. So if you
Hmm.
should get him to that point where he can crack the door a little bit, the last thing he would ever want is for somebody to say, or for a woman to say, you know what, you need to suck that up. You need to, I don't know what's going on. You need to go
Mm.
see a therapist, so on and so forth. The door automatically closes again, and he continues on as a damaged individual, moving from one person to the next. So, in a relationship aspect, you're supposed to be pouring into each other. It's not a one-way street. It's never supposed to be a one-way street. Um, the aspect of pouring into one another is different. When you pour into a man, the first instinct is going to be a protective instinct.
Hmm.
He's going to find out what's going on with you, what's been hurt you, where we got to go, what we got to do. Do we got to call the boys? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to be his first instinct, is to be defensive, is to be uh, on the defense and offense at the same time.
Hmm.
First instinct is going to be to shield and protect what's hurting my woman. It's not going to be submissiveness to what you're saying. It's not going to be a immediate sympathetic realm of receiving and opening up fully and wholeheartedly to what you have to say. Women, it's the exact opposite. She was made for this. She was made to protect. She was built for this. And that is what I was saying. So,
Okay. Thanks for that clarity. And I like that you said that it is a two-way street. I was
yeah.
like, no, we are not your emotional dumping grounds. Um, okay. Now, you brought up another point that I think is good because, like you said, for a woman to want to be that for a man, she has to feel protected.
Right.
And I don't think that that is something that is consistent in the black community, which is
Right.
why there's such a disarray
Yep.
between men and women right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like women as a collective, black women, feel protected by black men.
Mm.
I feel like if we felt that, I think y'all would get more of what y'all want as far as that nurturer that you're wanting. Not to replace your mom, but just because women are nurturer by nature, you need that. You just need it. So I think to get that, something needs to happen somewhere, I don't know, to where men are more conscious about how they're affecting their women. For me, like I have a lot of, uh, single friends who the stuff that they tell me, I'm just like, it's no way that like, God forbid I have to go back out into the dating world because it's ghetto. The streets is ghetto.
Oh yeah.
And it's just the things that they have to and not just with men, but I'm just addressing that right now.
Mm.
um the stuff that they do, like using social media for an example, and it's not all men, but it's a stereotype of men
Mm-hmm.
to embarrass their women on social media. Like
Stereotype.
it's a stereotype, but your woman's not going to feel protected if a woman feels like her man is embarrassing her, like you don't care for her, then therefore you're not protecting her. You're not protecting her emotionally. You're not protecting her spiritually. If you're allowing um, someone else to embarrass her or put her in a position to be embarrassed in the first place, I feel like there are a lot of instances where men don't think about how their actions affect their woman. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that if they were more cognizant of that and actually cared about that, they would get what they want from their woman. At the end of the day, y'all want someone who will listen to you and who will be there for you, someone who you can confide in and not feel like, you have to keep all this stuff bottled up because it can't feel good, and I know it doesn't, because that's why the statistics are what you say they are with suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Because y'all not able to release that. And granted, not everybody's going to be in a relationship or desires to be in a relationship. Just the fact that men in general feel like they have to keep that bottled up, but to be in a relationship and feel like you can't talk to your partner, like that's not cool. But I think a way to help bridge that is to make sure you're being your woman's protector.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's work on both sides, but to get there, that would be one of my solutions. Not the only solution, but one of them, along with, healing and being self-aware and all that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my little spiel.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I got a question before I respond.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly specifically are black women needing protection from?
I feel like protection, physical protection, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like emotional protection. Like, okay, so not everybody. moves within a relationship as if, okay, my actions, and I think this is vice versa, but definitely a thing for men to women. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, personally, as a woman, I think that a man should be cognizant of his actions and how his actions affect his woman across the board in whatever category. And I think that he should always be mindful of how his actions could affect his woman emotionally. I feel like if she is um, in whatever state that's not positive state, like she should have space to express that and not be called emotional,
Mm-hmm.
not have her emotions looked minimized, not to have her emotions minimized. Um, Spiritually, not everybody doesn't have the same spiritual belief, but you know, um, just like you would want your woman to build you up, I feel like a man should build his woman up too. You're basically pushing her to be the best version of herself, as
Right.
you would want her to do for you. So when I think about a man protecting his woman, like if it were the outside looking in, at the end of the day, like he got her.
Mm.
So okay, so let me ask, what do you, okay, so off the top of your head, what couples do you see in the media where when you look at the woman, you automatically think of the man and like he got her?
None really, because I don't really be paying attention to celebrity couples and things of that nature like that, honestly.
So I have an example. Michelle and Barack Obama.
Okay. Okay.
Like I feel like if you see Michelle and something goes down, like Barack's like not too far away.
All
You
right.
said Marjorie Harvey. Yeah, they locked in. They locked in. Steve Harvey got his wife. He got her back.
Okay.
So it's stuff like that. Like when you see the woman, like her man got her. So not like no crazy ridiculous type stereotypes. I mean like in that sense. So that's what I mean when I mean like protection and physically, spiritually. I don't I've watched some of their stuff, but honestly, I don't really know the dynamic of their relationship. Someone said Kev on stage, his wife. I've seen their Black Love episode, but I don't pay attention to them to know um their dynamic like that.
Mm. Okay. Um, those are good examples. I don't even they just didn't come to my mind like that, honestly. Um, so I feel like there's two things happening here in society. Um, Number one, you have a severe lack of accountability, and you
Yes,
have this versus battle where it's uh, traditional men versus modern women, or modern women wanting traditional men, and
yep.
that that's created the biggest climate for diversity that I've ever seen. Uh,
Hmm.
and it has strayed severely away from creating and keeping and maintaining the black nucleus family to such degree where social media
I
continually
agree.
popularizes it, and it's a debate that is continuous. Um, Here's the thing: accountability on a woman's behalf. She could stand to be more specific in the light of the men that she chose weren't protective over her, rather than
Okay.
all black men that just aren't protecting people in general. There's stories for days where men have given up their lives trying to protect children and women and so on and so forth, to such degree where in today's society, all of that just didn't even happen, just at all. You know what I'm saying? So accountability to the strongest degree of the men that they decide to be with and hang with and talk to and so on and so forth were not protective enough. But a lot of us real men out here know and understand what it means to be a protector and a provider and so on and so forth. Um, so that stereotype in and of itself plays into the stigma of why men can't open up and express and so on and so forth, because we feel like every time we step out the door, we face a constant threat of something or someone all the time, all day long. You
Mhm.
know, so um, starting with eliminating that could help a lot. Being more, at least more specific when it comes to those regards. I
Mhm.
discovered that I find that some women just can't take criticism
Mhm.
at all. Like they can't take criticism. Now, don't 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 throw nothing digitally at me. But um, Kevin Samuel's show is a prime example of that. But let me tell you something about it. I don't agree with all of his ideologies, but he
Okay, I'm
gives
glad you said that.
in the women equally. He gives it to them both equally. But a lot of women just popularize the videos of where he going in on the women. No, like this guy has done tons of videos of where he telling men exactly what it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's a perspective that I can respect. If you're gonna
Mhm.
tell this person this, keep that same energy when this person is calling you in and applying and so on and so forth. The difference is that the men take the criticism. They take it. I from the couple clips that I've heard him talk to guys, they
Mhm.
weren't being disrespectful and combative and going back and forth with them. They were receptive of what's being said because they do actually want to become better individuals. Um, but you have that era where it um it could be a slippery slope, right?
Mhm.
So you stated that if a lot of men were protective, we could, essentially get the type of woman that we want, so on and so forth. I'm gonna express how that's a contradiction, right?
Okay.
Um, the sexual liberation of the 1960s to the 1980s was due largely in the fact that women wanted to be able to speak, move freely for themselves, whether it be how they dress, how they move, all of that,
Mhm.
because that was a push to come out from underneath the thumb of men. Um,
Right.
to that same degree, it's like a mixture of wanting to keep sexual liberation but wanting patriarchy at the same time, and that's a fallacy. You can't mix the two. To that degree, it's like, at least from what I'm interpreting, you want men to be men, but not too manly enough that it overshadows your liberation of freedom to express yourself. But you want them to protect you, but not too much because that could be suffocating. And you want to be able to move how you want to move through society. You want him to have your back, but at the same time, you want him to be at the forefront and sometimes beside of you, and you want him to allow you to be vocal, but know how to put me in my place at the same time. Listen, that's too much. That there's no such thing as an alpha beta male nowhere. That he don't exist. And I've come to discover that trying to figure out what a woman really wants is like trying to figure out what color the number 7 smells like. So at the same time, it's like we can only move based off of who we're with. The
Mhm.
traditional men that are so sought after is clashing with modern women's ideology, because it's not because men can't be traditional. Of course they can. Of course they
Mhm.
know how. Most of them, not all of them, but most. The ones who had male um, role models or a male type figure in their life, they might have been taught that. Others learn different, but it's the ability that they still do know and possess the ability to learn how to be a traditional man. The problem with them is that they're not seeing any traditional women. Rare will you come across a woman who behaves in a traditional fashion. Um, this whole stigma about the man supposed to chase, that's a lie. Early in the early 18th, 17th, and 18th centuries, women would shoot their shot first. How? If they saw a gentleman in a saloon that they thought fond of, they would drop their handkerchief right there in front of him, just enough for him to pick up the handkerchief and say, "Hey, you dropped this," and the whole conversation is stirred from there.
Hmm.
Even that in and of itself is a complete misconception of how it started versus how it's going. You know what I'm saying? So, um, in order to see a traditional man, straight up and down, simply put, these women have to show some traditionalistic values as well. There's nothing wrong with being an innovator. You can be an
Hmm.
men. You can be an innovative traditional man. You can. But to be an innovator means you have to keep the original components of what made the innovation from the start, from the begin with. So that's I think one of the biggest things that is happening now is a lack of accountability. Yes, on both sides, but what's being popularized and not pointed out is the lack of accountability for some women as well. We don't have a problem with fixing what's wrong as long as you recognize what you're doing to trigger what's wrong. A lot of people always want to tell the victim side, their side, how they've been attacked, neglecting to mention what they might have done to contribute to it. Now, this only happens in some cases. It's not in all the cases. Some people out here just whole lot crazy.
Hmm.
But in a situation where you have two solid people who are trying to work through things, trying to work things out, so on and so forth, accountability is so crucial to accept and to have. And on top of all that, knowing when to apologize. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay. So I agree. Accountability is a huge thing. This generation doesn't like it. It. They don't like accountability at all. No one, men or women. People don't like being held accountable. They like to just project and just point the finger at the other person. And
right,
like you said, not really take accountability for what I did to also add to what just happened. So
right.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I agree that there is a controversy between traditionalist and modernist, and how traditionalists want things from the modern side and vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
when they probably would align more if they stuck with, the
Right,
people who are following their ideology.
right, right.
I agree with that. What I don't agree with is women. Okay, so saying a woman saying she wants a protector, I don't think that falls through. Sorry, cat trying to come up here. So I don't think that falls under, traditionalist. I think that a man should just be a protector of his woman across the board.
Mm,
I don't think that you have to be a traditional woman to receive protection from your man.
right, right.
Now, I can see how a woman who wants to follow a majority of traditional values
Mm,
should also conduct themselves in a way that's more traditional. I can see that too.
right.
But like you said, innovation. People are creating their own things now
Mm,
and kind of coming up with their own rules. So we kind of out here figuring it out,
right,
to be honest. Like that okay, so we came from this, we like, okay, so I like this from this, I like this from that. Let me just pull what I like out of these two and just kind of make it work for us.
right, right,
I don't think it's a lot of people really that's just strictly traditionalists, not from our age group. They
mm,
have maybe a few ideologies that they follow, but they not, because this not then. Like
right.
women got a lot more freedom now, so they can
Lot,
be,
yeah,
you know, self-sufficient. They don't have to rely on their husbands anymore. And not that, you can't lean on one another, but back then it was more of a control factor.
yeah,
And women don't want to be controlled. Like you can lead but not control me. You know what I'm saying? Like if and this is where I think the whole submission thing comes up. Like a lot of men think traditionalist means to or yeah, traditional men is to control, and it's not. You're just stepping into a leadership role. You're being the leader of your family, and you're not necessarily controlling, but we're relinquishing control to you to lead us down the right path. We're trusting your your direction, where you're going, your vision that you have for this family, this unit. We're trusting that.
Right.
When you say, hey, I feel like we should do this, okay, I trust that you know what you're doing. But at the same time, that works on both sides, because, for instance, say you have a woman who is really good in a particular area and you're not good in that. Why would you lead in that area?
That's the element of control at that point.
It's
Um,
got to, because you when you in a relationship, it's not always co-pilot, but sometimes you get tired, so I need to like toss the ball to you. Like,
right, right.
I don't have no good sports analogy, but I feel like if I had one, that would have been a perfect place to place it right just then. But yeah, I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, we kind of trying to figure out what it is that we want. We saw our parents. Some of us didn't see our parents together. Some of us did. Some of us saw things that they did. We know we want long lasting marriages. We know we want um, uh, things that just longevity. We want that people, because we are now in the part of society where is everything short lived.
Right.
Nobody wants to stick it through. Everybody they have instant gratification is running rampant. Like, if it don't feel good
Yep.
all the time, I don't want it.
Right.
So I think it helps to come to a mutual understanding. Somebody said the dating pool got pee in it. I agree. I agree. Um, it helps to come to a mutual understanding about what you want. I don't think people have that conversation enough. What are you expecting from your partner? Are you expecting more traditional values? Do you have more modern values? And I think if they had that conversation more, it wouldn't be this huge. Well, people would probably still argue because people like arguing,
Yeah.
but it would be a lot more understanding.
Yeah.
It would you One man wouldn't speak for all women because all women don't believe this one belief. One
Right.
woman wouldn't speak for all men because not every man has this one belief.
Right.
So I think it helps with. You're just gonna come up here anyways, aren't you? It helps to have like a open line of communication and understanding with one another about what each person wants.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Honestly, I'm not sure if people actually know or realize what it is to be traditional. Traditional,
Hmm.
but like I mean, it could go back so much more further than what you think a traditional guy or girl is supposed to do. And 'cause
Yeah.
the thing about it is, for our community, you have to ask traditional to what? Knowing that our heritage isn't indigenous to Western culture, that it's indigenous
Right.
to whatever we practiced before colonization happened, and even stemming back to the roots of Africa and what those many civilization practice in the courting phase. Like you have to ask traditional to what, because there's a civilization in Africa who uh, gives gifts to the father just to obtain favor with the woman.
Okay.
They give livestock,
That's
uh,
what I'm saying. Come with some
the,
goats.
the grains of the field, the harvest field, and they adorn her with pearls. So you gotta ask traditional to what though? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it can't be traditional to Western civilization, because that's not what we supposed to be identifying with anyway. I know
Yeah.
here
True.
we adapted the culture, but you at least have to question traditional to what. And I think once you establish or find out um, what that looks like or what that is, then yeah, I feel like it would be um, more applicable to articulate what you mean by traditional, you know.
Right.
And
you're right as well. It's a natural, because we were built this way, because men were built this way. It is instinctive for us to be protective. Even if we went on the first date, it's instinctive. Hey, hold on,
Hmm.
walk on this side of the sidewalk. I don't want you walking
Right.
the road. Or let me come get you